guys, and welcome to TechFurb. Today we are doing a review of this guy right here, the Alienware 17R3. So let's get into that. Okay, so a bit of background on this device. Now, this is not a current gen device anymore. This is about 2 generations old now. They're up to a 17R5, I believe it is, or an R6. And basically, to rattle off the specs very quickly, this is running a Intel Core i7 6700HQ. So it's a Skylake part and quad-core hyper-thread, so 4 cores, 8 threads. The graphics card is an Nvidia GTX 970M. Now this is pre-10 series, and pre-10 series the power efficiency wasn't that great. Speaking in terms of relative modern, in a modern sense, so you're going to look at a rather large gap in performance between an actual 970 and a mobile 970. But we'll get into that in part of the review. Now, the reason why I'm reviewing this device today, given its age, is I have actually had this laptop for about 3 years now, and I thought it would be good to do a review on a laptop of its age, because there's a burning question I've had in my mind when I bought this laptop, and that is, how long do these things actually last? Not in terms of their durability, because that is important, but in terms of its actual usable life. Is this thing going to be just a useless brick in 5 years after I buy it? Because you've got to remember, when you buy these things, you're sinking over $2,000 Australian dollars into one of these machines. They're pretty expensive. So, I guess we should jump into some benchmarks and start having a look at what this machine's like. Alright, so benchmarks are pretty straightforward. We're focusing mostly on gaming, but we'll have a couple of CPU benchmarks towards the end. And now, long-term review of this device is, what I actually use it for is I try and use it for Premiere and editing videos on the go. I did originally get it as like a desktop replacement, because at the time it was just more practical for me to have a laptop. Now that's not the case, as can be seen by the YouTube studio. So it was meant for gaming originally, and then around that time I started the YouTube channel, and it started to become, you know, an editing laptop as well. So we're going to evaluate the performance for that, and get into that. So I guess we should jump straight into the games. Now, we had 12 games in total, and we'll just go through them one by one. So first up was CSGO. Now we tested at 1080p on the Ultra preset, and we had an average of 121 frames per second, a 1% low of 73 frames per second, and a 0.1% low of 59 frames per second. And in terms of just general usability in that benchmark, it ran pretty well. No issues. Obviously, it's pretty low in terms of frame rate compared to, say, a full-blown desktop. We're talking like GTX 1050 or maybe less performance levels. So yeah, but that was the first benchmark. It passed that with flying colours, and then we'll move on to Doom. Doom was a reasonably okay experience. So we had 60 frames per second on average, and yes, I turned off VSync. Just for some reason, the CPU manages to nail that 60 frames per second average. Don't know why. Sometimes it gets above 60, sometimes it's below, but it seems to nail that average. So we had 1% lows of 47 and 0.1% lows of 45, and overall it didn't feel like a stuttery mess. It was buttery smooth, the way Doom should feel. And I was pretty happy with that experience, and of course 1080p Ultra, so on the highest possible preset, so room to adjust settings if need be. Next we had F1 2017, and this is a rather vicious benchmark I find on some hardware, and this was no exception. At 1080p Ultra, this is where it started to struggle. We had 41 frames per second on average, 1% lows of 26 and 0.1% lows of 20, and you know, when you're getting down to those lows, 20s and your 1% and 0.1%, you're getting a bit of stutter. It's not running great, and ultimately we are on the Ultra preset, but my expectation at this point is almost every graphics card on the market can do 1080p gaming at high to ultra settings. So this laptop, based on these benchmarks, it's starting to sort of fall by the wayside in terms of a gaming laptop, but we will have some newer games to kind of validate that towards the end. So moving on, we have GTA 5, a rather older title that this laptop is very capable of handling, and I ran it at the high preset. Well, not high preset, but all the settings were on high, and anything that was MSA or anti-aliasing or anything like that was set to X4. Now, we had an average of 47, a 1% low of 37, and a 0.1% low of 33. It ran reasonably well. Obviously, it's not hitting 60 frames per second, so not perfect, but it was playable. It looked okay, and you know what, I was pretty happy. So it was a pass for me. It's certainly not as good as a full-blown desktop in like 2019 terms. But yeah, so fifth benchmark was PUBG, and oh boy, did this break it. So it did average 54 frames per second on the high preset, so we're now dropping down from the maximum possible settings. We're dropping down to, I think, highs the second highest or the third highest. It's hard to run, but we didn't average 60 frames per second. We only averaged 54, and the 1% and 0.1% lows were 22 and 10 respectively, which unfortunately means it was a stuttery mess. It didn't run as well as it should, and it wasn't a great experience, but at the end of the day it did run the game still, so there was that. But again, this laptop is starting to show that it is a laptop and it is a bit older, so yeah, it's long term not looking great based on this benchmark. Next we had, swipe too fast, we have Fortnite, and I got a shock out of this game. Actually, I've had a great experience with any benchmarks with Fortnite. Unfortunately, Fortnite doesn't run fantastic on this system. We had it on the Epic preset, 1080p. We averaged 52 frames per second, which is fine, it runs okay, but it did stutter and hiccup. It got down as low as 24 and 11 for the 1% and 0.1% lows. And just playing the game generally, it felt like a little bit of a stuttery mess. It wasn't great, but it is what it is. It ran the game again, but yeah, that's a bit of a surprise, that one. Next we have Fallout 76, and Fallout 76 is a bit of a weird benchmark. I include it because it's a very recent game, like it's 2 months old. I have the title. I don't have a lot of gaming titles, so it's why I included it in the benchmarks. The caveat to the 76 benchmark is it has a frame cap of 60 frames per second. So when you're averaging 50 plus, you're doing pretty well with this game. So 1080p Ultra preset, we saw an average of 43, 1% and 0.1% lows of 25 and 17. So a little bit of stutter. It wasn't great, but this game is not the best game in the world in terms of optimization. But overall, in terms of actually playing it, it felt pretty good. I was pretty happy with the experience, and this laptop was fine running that game. So next up is Battlefront 2. We're moving into the Origin titles now, and Battlefront 2, I've seen this getting like over 100 FPS in when you're using an RX 480 in a full-blown desktop. So for perspective, we're only getting 52 average here, so that's half the performance of an RX 480, which is not great because 480 is a mid-range card, and also 2 years old, I might add. So 52 on the average, 43 on the 1% lows and 0.1% lows of 37. It did run smooth, it was okay. It could run the title, and again, we're on the Ultra preset, so there is room to give it more performance, but again, it's not doing as well as a full-blown desktop. Next up we had Battlefield 5, and this is where the thing started to fall to its knees a little bit. We averaged 36 frames per second, then 1% and 0.1% were 30 and 17. And you know what, this is where it started to not do very well. We were on the Ultra preset, but this title, being a very new title, and with its struggling frame rates at 1080p Ultra, that tells me that this laptop is on the decline in terms of performance. So it wasn't great there. Next, we had Far Cry 5. So Far Cry 5, 1080p Ultra. This is actually the first time I've used this game in any benchmarks. So welcome to the benchmarks week for Far Cry 5. We had an average of 40, a 1% low of 33, and a 0.1% low of 31. Couldn't tell you how that is compared to a desktop, but I can tell you that it was actually pretty consistent. It didn't really stutter. It wasn't as high as the frame rate should be, but it was okay. So yeah, that was Far Cry 5. Next we had Ghost Recon Wildlands, 1080p Ultra. Tough to run. This title does bring a lot of graphics cards to their knees, and this system was no exception. So 1080p Ultra, we're getting 36 on average, 29 for the 1% lows, and 23 for the 0.1% lows. Not a great outcome. It was a little stuttery. It didn't run as well as it should, but it did run it. So again, we're starting to see that it's starting to decline, but we'll move on. So last gaming benchmark is Watch Dogs 2. Bit of an older title. Now I think we're looking at 2017 or early 2018 release, but it's still relevant because it's a really damn hard game to run. So we were running on the very high preset, which is the second highest preset you can run, and we were averaging 33, 1% lows of 26, and 0.1% lows of 5 frames per second. So it wasn't great. It was a bit of a stuttery mess, and ultimately this game kind of, for me, demonstrates that this laptop is really not... It can game, but in terms of the frames per dollar, it doesn't go very well long term. It's good when it's initially released, but yeah, it's not holding up as a gaming computer very well long term. So we'll get then into that a bit more, but now we will move on to synthetics. 3D Mark Firestrike, we were looking at 6,541 as the score, and I can tell you relative to, say, my Ryzen 7 system with a RX 480 in it, you're looking at about 10,000 plus. I can't remember the exact figures, but there's a bit of a large deficit to like a current mid-range gaming machine, so not great. Next we have TimeSpy, 3D Mark of course. This got 2,385, and I can tell you that an RX 480 and Ryzen 7 also get significantly higher numbers, looking at 4,000, 5,000 with that sort of graphics card off the top of my head. Could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but I do remember it being significantly higher when you're running a desktop mid-range gaming system that's probably a bit cheaper than this. Next we had Cinebench. Now this is where the laptop starts to come back into its own and demonstrates its strengths. So we had a Cinebench score of 671. Now relative to modern Intel processors on the desktop side, yeah, it's lacking, it's not as good as it could be, but you're looking at bang on i7 3770 performance, which is a still pretty good CPU. So considering you're getting that level of desktop grade performance shoved into a laptop, not bad. And in the last benchmark we ran, which was Premiere Creative Cloud 2018, a 7-minute clip. It's just a bit of stock footage that I sort of slapped together in a TechFurb style of editing. It took 250 seconds to render, which equates to 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So less than the length of the video. So that is fantastic. It's doing its purpose of why I have it very well still, so I'm happy about that. And yeah, I guess that kind of leads me to the conclusion, because obviously I do use this laptop on a frequent basis. So let's answer the question, should you buy a gaming laptop? The answer to that is a strong no, unless, and I guess the unless is you need a portable gaming computer for whatever reason that may be. You just possibly can't have a desktop because of space, or you move around too much, or whatever it is. If you need something that's portable, that's fine, just go buy a gaming laptop. Honestly, yeah, you haven't got a choice there. But if you have the choice of building a desktop versus one of these, you would always go with the desktop. The amount of times I've actually used the portable gaming aspect of this gaming computer, not a whole lot. I maybe used to use it when I was on like a train or something like that. But yeah, to be honest, it was really no different having a desktop for me in terms of like using a laptop side of it. I just didn't use it. And you know, when you're sinking $2,000 to $2,500 into one of these machines, that's a very good damn desktop that you can buy. And the difference is, of course, you can upgrade the desktop. You can't upgrade this. This graphics card that's in there, it's literally the only thing holding the system back. CPU is completely fine in this graphics card, in this laptop. But yeah, that graphics card needs to be upgraded, and I cannot upgrade it. Maybe I could go to like a 980, but yeah, it's 980M, so not great. Little disappointing, but yeah, it is what it is. So that's my whole thoughts on the gaming laptop side of things. They're a good idea if you need portability. They're a bad idea if you don't need portability. And again, that's based on my experience, because let's be honest, I've sunk a lot of money into this device, and if it was purely only for gaming, it's going to be useless for titles that come out in the next couple of years. So not great, bit of a disappointment. And for those of you who are sitting there going, yeah, but you tested on Ultra, you could just drop the settings. I've sunk $2 grand in this laptop. I don't want to run it on low settings. I expect to be able to run it on Ultra settings, because I can run it on Ultra settings on my desktop. So that's my answer to that question if anyone wants to ask it. But hey, I'll probably get the comments anyway, and I'll just respond with that. Anyway, so thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like if you liked it, leave a dislike if you disliked it. Comments down below if you've got anything to ask me about this laptop or just gaming computers in general. Get subscribed, check out Facebook, check out the Instagram, check out the Discord server. And what's the other social media? The Twitters. I have the Twitters as well. See, I can remember all the social media platforms. Now, you guys have noticed I've probably been wearing a safety vest for the entirety of this video. Let me show you the back of this safety vest. Aha! Yes, so, a bit of an announcement. I can't give you full details, but what I can say is in 2019, this year, you're going to be seeing a lot more rally videos coming up on the channel, because I will get to go and do some filming of some rally cars throughout the year. I've been asked to do this, but it hasn't, I don't believe it's been officially announced, so we're just going to leave it as a little teaser like that. But yeah, so you're going to see me in like high-vis vests and interviewing rally drivers and that sort of stuff. Some of it will go up on the channel. Most of it will go up on the channel that I'm making it for, but you guys will see rally videos coming from me a lot more often this year. It doesn't mean that this channel is going to turn into a rally channel. It will still stay as good old TechFerb with tech videos. We will just be adding more content to it. So that's what's been happening. Thank you for supporting me, following me, all that stuff, and I'll catch you in the next video.